Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Love From Lizi's July 2023 card kit. It's called Peach Blossom and it's absolutely beautiful. I love all the greens and peach colors. If you are interested in purchasing or subscribing to the kit, I do have links provided in the description box below. This is a monthly kit, so quantities are always limited. The only way to guarantee receiving a kit is to sign up and subscribe. And I do have links for subscribing in the description box below. Let's go ahead and get started with card number 1. For my first card, I'm using one of the 4 card bases that's included in the kit. They're 4 different sizes and they all include coordinating envelopes. The card base I'm using is square and it's about 5 1/4 inches. I selected one of the beautiful floral pattern papers for the background. I'll be layering it on some black cardstock. I'm adding a smaller piece of green and white polka dot paper, also layering it on some black cardstock. Behind the green panel, I'm adding a banner, and I cut this out from some of the orange or peach colored pattern paper that's included in the kit. I'll adhere the banner down first, then add the green and white panel on top. I did leave a fairly wide border of the card base showing. I thought the craft looked really nice with the pattern paper colors. Next, I'll assemble a couple of flowers using the dies that are included in the kit. Cut out one from a darker peach color and the other from a light peach cardstock color. In the very center, I used black cardstock. I'll be adding both of the flowers and also some of the leaves on a stitch circle die cut. And the circle die is from a Love From Lizi set. She currently has stitched circles, stitched rectangles, and her brand new stitched oval die sets. I'll adhere both of the flowers down first, then I'll add the leaves underneath. And I am trimming off the very end of the leafy branches. Put some in the upper left-hand corner and the others underneath the flowers, more on the right side. I am leaving a little gap, and that's where I'll add the sentiment thank you. And I've already gone ahead and stamped it on some white cardstock. This sentiment stamp is included in the card kit. I'll cut a fishtail on the right side, layer the sentiment banner on some black cardstock. Then I'll tuck the very left side of the sentiment underneath the darker peach flower. And I am putting some foam dimension on the right side of the sentiment to help keep everything nice and level. I keep fussing with the sentiment, trying to get it tucked underneath the flower. At first it was too far on the right, so I did trim off the left side of that sentiment piece. It wasn't until I glued down the sentiment that I realized I need some foam dimension on the very right side of that banner. I'll add just a tiny piece of black foam dimension. For a little bit of sparkle, I'm using a clear glitter brush and adding it to the center of the 2 flowers. After adding the flowers and the sentiment, I decided to add just a couple more leaves. I cut out one more of the leafy branch die cuts, trimmed off 2 of the leaves, and I'll add those underneath the sentiment. And the single leaf I'll tuck above the darker peach flower on the left side. For a final finishing touch, I'm using some of the tiny white pearls that are included in the kit. I'll put 2 in the lower left-hand corner, 2 in the upper right-hand corner, and 1 above the sentiment. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 1. I almost always make A2 size cards, so it was fun doing something a little different. For card number 2, I am using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Sweet Sunday. It's sketch number 236. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. That link is provided in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. I selected another lovely floral paper. This one's mostly green in the background. For the narrow strip that goes across the card, I'm using some of the peach and white gingham pattern paper, and I'll layer it on some black cardstock. For the scallop border, I used a die from Pretty Pink Posh and cut it out from some tone-on-tone peach-colored pattern paper. I put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back to adhere that scallop border in place. And for a little bit of shine, I did add a gold Love From Lizi peel-off. I'll layer the background on some black cardstock, put my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For the image panel, I'm using a light peach pattern paper. It has a very solid look, but it is pattern paper. I'll layer it on some green cardstock and then again on some black cardstock. And the green cardstock is included in the card kit. The kit also includes 1 sheet of black cardstock. But I pulled some black cardstock from my stash since it works really well with this paper collection. I'm popping up the image panel using the foam dimension that's included in the kit. I'll add 2 strips on the upper portion and a narrow strip at the bottom, just leaving a gap where the gingham paper goes across the card. Then before adhering the image panel down, I will add some scrap cardstock pieces. Next, I'll add one of the lovely ephemera pieces that's included in the kit, and I've already put foam dimension on the back. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the ephemera onto the image box. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out the word greetings. I'll cut a fishtail on the left side, layer the sentiment on some black cardstock, and I'll be tucking it underneath the image panel. It was sticking out a little further than I wanted it to, so I am trimming off more of the left side. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place. For a final finishing touch, I'll add some of the gold sequins that are included in the kit. I'll put 3 above the sentiment on the left side. There are lots of beautiful gold sequins included in this mix. There's gold mirror, there's a satin mirror, and also gold holographic. For this card, I'm using the gold mirror. I selected the larger size and 2 of the smaller size. I'll add a drop of Barely Art glue, use an embellishment wand to pick up the sequins, then press them in place. The cute little wood bowl I'm using to hold the sequins is something my father made for me. He does wood turning as a hobby, and I requested a couple of small bowls for embellishments. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 2. For card number 3, I'm using one of the black and white pattern papers. It has lots of leafy branches all over it. I'm layering it on some light peach pattern paper, and then again on some black pearlescent cardstock. And the pearlescent cardstock is one of the add-on bundles that's available, but I do believe it has sold out already. I'll put my card front onto a card base. Next, I'll add a white stitch circle die cut and also a black one. Both of them I cut out from some of the pearlescent cardstock. I'll glue the 2 pieces together, then add them to the front of my card. I'm placing an acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dries. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out hello on some of the light peach pattern paper, and I also added a small flower image on the right and left side of the sentiment. I'll layer the sentiment piece on a slightly darker peach pattern paper strip. For a little bit of contrast, I'll add a black peel-off along the edge of the lighter peach pattern paper. This is the pinstripe style, and I'm using the medium width. I'll wrap the ends around the back, put glue on the back of the sentiment piece, and adhere it toward the bottom of the card. The card kit includes several fun chalkboard stickers. I'm adding one in the center of the white circle die cut. Has this leafy wreath all around it. And in the very center of the sticker, I'm adding one of the peach blossom ephemera pieces. I'll adhere that in place using some glue. For a final finishing touch, I'll put one small pearl in the center of the flower. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 3. I love the look of black and white with a pop of the peach color. For card number 4, the card sketch is from Sketch Saturday. This is number 728. I'm using another beautiful floral paper for the background, layering it on some black cardstock. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. For For the narrow strip that goes across the card, using one of the darker peach pattern papers, before adhering it down, I will add some Love From Lizi peel-offs along the very edge of that paper. This is the apricot color with gold overlay. I'll wrap the ends around the back, then adhere the peach strip in place. I will be adding a rectangle frame die cut, and I'll first hold that frame up to the card so I can get the right placement for the peach strip. I have double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the frame. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the frame onto my card. Next, I'll add a stitch circle die cut, and I cut this out from some of the Pearlescent cardstock. It's a light brown color. Before adhering that down, I will add a scrap piece of cardstock on the upper portion of the circle, and that'll help keep it nice and level. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere the circle on the left side of the card, following the design of the card sketch. Inside the circle, I'll add one of the heart ephemera pieces. And for a sentiment, I've already stamped out the sentiment warm hugs on another ephemera piece. I'll put foam dimension on the back of the image and also the sentiment. And this is the foam dimension that's included in the card kit. For a final finishing touch, I'll use more of the sequins that are included in the kit, this time the gold holographic color. And these are super sparkly. I'll put 2 in the upper right-hand corner, 2 in the lower left-hand corner, and 1 above the sentiment. I'm using the large and small size. I'll first add a drop of Barely Art glue, use an embellishment wand to pick up the sequin, then press it in place. The peach blossom paper pad that's included in the kit is absolutely beautiful. There are so many lovely floral designs. When Lizi first showed me a peek of this kit, I couldn't wait for it to arrive so I could start making cards. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 4. For card number 5, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 24. I have another floral paper for the background, but this time it's green with white flowers. I'll be layering it on some black cardstock. For the smaller rectangle, I selected pattern paper with some small white flowers, and I did cut it out using one of Love From Lizi's stitched rectangle dies. Then I layered it on some black cardstock. Put my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For the 2 narrow strips that go across the card, I'm using some black cardstock and also a light green cardstock. I'll first adhere the 2 narrow strips together. Then on the very left side, I will put some foam dimension. I'm using some black foam dimension from Honeybee Stamps. I'll remove the release paper, put glue on the back, and adhere the 2 narrow strips toward the bottom of the card. Next, I'll bring in several ephemera pieces, and I've also cut out the word love. This is a die that's included in the kit. I cut out the word love twice, one from black cardstock and one from light brown pearlescent cardstock. I'll glue the 2 love words together, leaving just that small drop shadow of the brown pearlescent cardstock showing. For ephemera pieces, I have 2 of the green and white polka dot hearts, a large and a medium size, and also 4 sets of leaves. Before attaching the hearts, I'll first glue down all of the leaves. Put 2 above the heart on the left side, and 2 below the hearts on the right side. Once I have all of those in place, I'll flip over the hearts and put foam dimension on the back. I'm using some thin foam dimension behind the large heart, and on the back of the smaller heart, I'll use some thicker foam dimension and just put it on the right side, since the left side of the heart will be sitting on top of the larger heart. I'll remove the release paper, add the large heart down first, trying to make sure to get it straight. Now I'll add the thicker foam dimension behind the smaller heart and adhere it on the right side of the large heart. Next, I'll put glue on the back of the love sentiment and adhere it on top of the 2 hearts. For embellishments, I'll add some Love From Lizi peel-offs. This is one of her new styles. It's butterfly border. It has this fun border, and in the center there are lots of little black butterflies. I'll put 2 in the upper right hand corner, 1 above the hearts on the right side, and 2 on the left side of the sentiment. This is a fun new peel-off style. Lizi also has a star border and heart border. And in the center of each of the borders, there's small hearts and also small stars. I really like the look of the butterfly peel-offs. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 5. For card number 6, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 650. I have some white and light brown grid paper for the background. At the bottom of the card, I'm adding a strip of the green and white floral paper. This is left over from the previous card. For a little bit of separation and shine between the 2 pattern papers, I'll add a Love From Lizi peel-off. This is the peel-off that's included in the kit. It's green and has gold overlay. I'll wrap the end around the back, layer this panel on some black cardstock, then again on some craft cardstock. And the craft cardstock is included in the kit. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. On the card sketch, it does indicate a circle in the lower right hand corner, but I'll be changing it to an oval. The white oval, I use some white pearlescent cardstock, and the larger oval in green, I use the cardstock that's included in the kit. I'll glue those 2 pieces together, then adhere the oval in the lower right hand corner. Next, I'll add one of the floral ephemera pieces. Beautiful floral bouquet sitting inside a mason jar. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out Best Wishes, stamped it on some light green cardstock. I'll cut a fishtail on the right side and adhere the sentiment in the upper left-hand corner. Then for a final finishing touch, I'll add some of the mini pearls that are included in the kit. Put 3 around the sentiment and 2 in the lower right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 6. For card number 7, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 586. Using another beautiful floral design, this time with the black background. I'll round the right 2 corners, layer that piece on some black cardstock. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add the floral panel onto the peach and white gingham pattern paper. For the narrow strip on the left side of the card, have some more pattern paper in a peach color, and it looks like it has a bunch of cursive E's, or maybe they're L's. Before adhering the narrow strip down, I will put a scrap piece of cardstock on the very top and bottom. Along the edge of the narrow strip, I'll also add some Love From Lizi peel-offs. This is the peel-off sheet that's included in the kit. I'm using the narrowest width, and since it has that gold overlay, you actually only see a little bit of the green color and mostly the gold color. I'll add 1 peel-off strip on the left side and 1 on the right. I'll wrap the ends around the back, layer the pattern paper on some craft cardstock, then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. Other than the very first card I made in this video, all of my cards are American Standard A2 size, 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. Next, I'll be adding one of the tags that's included in the kit. It's craft cardstock and has a fun chalkboard panel. Lizi's also included a stick of white chalk, so I thought I would try it out and write out the sentiment "Hi." I was not happy with how the sentiment turned out, mostly because I don't like my writing, and I wasn't sure if you could easily wipe off the chalk, but I found out you can. I first tried wiping it with my finger and realized the chalk does wipe off, so I pulled out a small chamois cloth and completely wiped away the sentiment so I could start over. After erasing my first attempt, I tried again, still sticking with the sentiment "Hi." I'll first start with the 3 lines down, then finish off the H. After looking at it, I felt the I was off to the right just a bit too far, so I erased it and moved it closer to the left. Seeing how easily the chalk does wipe off, I was afraid it would disappear on the front of the card, so I thought I could protect it by placing a piece of acetate on top. The card kit does include a full sheet of acetate, so I trimmed it down so it's about the same size as the tag. I cut a hole to match the tag, then added a piece of the brown and white twine that's included in the kit. At the bottom of the tag on the right side, I'll add a small floral ephemera piece, and this is another way to help attach that acetate onto the tag. I'll put a little bit of glue underneath the acetate, and I'll be covering up that area with the floral piece. Using a pair of scissors, I'll cut off the extra twine from the top of the tag. Then I'll put foam dimension on the back and adhere it on the left side of the card. For embellishments, I'm adding more of the butterfly border peel-offs, this time in the gold color. I'll put 3 on the tag and 2 in the upper right-hand corner. It's not very noticeable on the video, but once I laid the acetate on top of the tag, the dust from the chalk seemed to stick to it, so it didn't have a very solid looking sentiment. When I finished the card, I decided to cover up the chalk sentiment using an alphabet die set. And I was happy to find some letters that perfectly covered up my chalk sentiment. My recommendation, if you're using the chalkboard tags or stickers that are included in the kit, maybe use a white paint pen instead. Now moving on to card number 8. The card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 368. I have this fun light brown and white geometric pattern for the background, and I did cut out that piece using a stitched rectangle die. For the 2 smaller rectangle pieces, I have some of the peach solid pattern paper and more of the floral paper that I used on the previous card. At the bottom of the panel, I'm adding some black peel-offs. This is the pinstripe style, using the medium and also the narrowest width. I'll wrap the ends around the back, layer this piece on some black cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Next, I'll add a stitched oval die cut. The smaller one I used white pearlescent cardstock, and the larger is some light green pearlescent cardstock. I'll adhere the 2 together using glue. Then I'll add my oval die cuts onto the card. On the card sketch, the oval is horizontal, but I'm turning it vertical so it'll fit a floral ephemera piece. This is another fun floral bouquet sitting inside a mason jar. I've already stamped out the sentiment hello. I'll tuck the very left side of the sentiment underneath the jar. And underneath the right side of the sentiment, I'll add some foam dimension. Using some black cardstock, I'll cut a small banner and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner. I'll first cut a fishtail on the bottom, then on the right side, I'll cut it in slightly at an angle, flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place. Then for a final finishing touch, I'll add a few of the white pearls. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 8. For card number 9, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 528. For the background of the card, I have some peach tone-on-tone pattern paper. At the bottom of the card, I'm adding some ephemera pieces that look like washi tape. They're not as wide as the narrow strips on the card sketch, but they'll still work for the card design. I'll adhere all of those in place using some glue. Then I'll layer this panel on some black cardstock. For the background of the card, I'm actually using the paper pad front. This card design is perfect for covering up the label of the front of the paper pad. I do have more of the floral paper showing on the top and bottom of the card, and it's narrower on the right and left side. I'll put adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I'll be adding a few more ephemera pieces onto a vellum stitch circle die cut. I still wanted the washi tape ephemera pieces to be visible through the circle. I put foam dimension on the back of the flower, and I'll attach that onto the circle die cut first. Then tuck the leaves in on the right side. Then I'll flip over the circle, put glue on the back just behind the ephemera pieces. Then I'll adhere it to my card. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out hello. I'll cut the left side at an angle for some extra interest. Put foam dimension on the left side, then tuck the right side underneath the peach flower. And I did need to trim off more of the sentiment panel on the right. In the upper left-hand corner, I'll add another ephemera piece, this fun banner with a peach heart in the center. I'll adhere that in place using some glue. For a final finishing touch, I'll add more of the mini white pearls. I'll put 1 in the center of the flower and 3 around the sentiment and image. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 9. It was fun using the front cover of the paper pad for the background of the card. For card number 10, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 535. The background of the card has this fun black and white honeycomb print. For the narrow strip that goes across the card, I'm using a light brown pattern paper, and I decided to add a second narrow strip. The other one is the tone-on-tone peach pattern paper. After adhering both of those down, I'll layer the pattern paper on some black cardstock, then again on some green cardstock. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I'm using some of the green and white polka dot paper for the banner. I'll cut a fishtail on the left side, then adhere it above the 2 narrow strips. Next, I'll add more of the ephemera images. I have the large mason jar, and I'll fill it with a few different floral ephemera pieces. I did put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back side of the jar. I'll remove the release paper and tuck my flowers inside the jar. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere the jar with the flowers on the right side of the card. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out hello. There are 2 different hello sentiments included on the stamp set this month. This is the larger size. Lizi's included a great selection of sentiments, so you'll have something that works all year round. I'll cut a fishtail on the left side, layer the sentiment on some black cardstock, and I'm tucking the right side of the sentiment underneath the left side of the jar. I did need to trim off the fancy little loop at the end of the O in order to get the sentiment to fit on the left side of the jar. Next, I'll add a banner in the upper left-hand corner, cutting it the same way I did on a previous card, and I'll adhere it in place using some glue. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a twine bow, and this twine is included in the kit. I've already gone ahead and tied the bow, and I'll adhere it to the top of the jar using a small glue dot. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 10. I usually stop at 10 cards, but this month I have a bonus card. After making the first 10 cards, I ended up with lots of strips of pattern paper. So I'll be featuring those on the background of the card. I'm attaching them at a slight angle on a piece of white cardstock. And I do apologize since I forgot to hit record, but all I've done so far is attach the different strips of pattern paper. Once I have that entire cardstock panel covered with pretty pattern paper, I'll flip it over, use my scissors, and trim off the extra. This is an easy and fun way to create a beautiful background featuring lots of pattern paper. For this white cardstock panel, I did use a heavier weight cardstock. I find that it helps to have the thicker cardstock when I need to trim off the extra. If I'm using thin cardstock, then I may accidentally cut into that panel. For a little bit of contrast and shine, I'll add a Love From Lizi peel off between each of the pattern paper strips. I'm using the sheet of peel offs that's included in the kit. It's green with the gold overlay. For some, I'll use the narrowest width, and for others, I'm using the medium width, just changing it up. Once I have all of those in place, I'll wrap the ends around the back, Put adhesive on the back of this panel and layer it on some black cardstock. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. The July card kit includes beautiful pattern paper. It has a coordinating die set matching several of the flowers on the pattern paper. And there's also a great stamp set with lots of sentiments and floral images that match the pattern paper. So for this card, I'm using the larger floral bloom and some of the leaves. I have a piece of white cardstock. The ink color I'm using for the blooms is by Catherine Pooler. This is the Clay Mask color. I'll stamp the flowers randomly on the piece of cardstock, having some of them go off the edge of the paper. Next, I'll stamp the center of the flowers using Honeybee Stamp's Intense Black ink. The next stamp image is the leaves, and I'm using the Spruce ink color from Catherine Pooler. I had to quickly wipe away some of that extra ink on my mini stencil mat. For the leaves, I'm also making sure to have them go off the edge of the paper. The final stamp image is one of the smaller flowers. It's just a little outline. I'm using the same Clay Mask ink, but this time I'll do some second generation stamping. I'm using this small floral image to fill in all the white spaces. Once I finish stamping the background, I'll use a stitched rectangle die by Love From Lizi to cut it out. Then I'll layer this piece on some black cardstock. I'm putting ATG tape on the back and also some glue along that very outside edge, and that'll help the faux stitched edge lay nice and flat. Then I'll flip over the panel, put foam dimension on the back. This is the foam dimension that's included in the kit, and add my stamp panel onto the background of my card. For a sentiment, I'll be adding the word hello. I stamped it on some white cardstock, cut it out using one of Love From Lizi's stitched rectangle dies. Then using the next size up of the stitched rectangle dies, I cut that out from black cardstock, and I'll layer those two pieces together. I'll put foam dimension on the back and add my sentiment panel onto the center of the card. I did trim one of the foam pieces in half so I could get solid coverage on the back of the sentiment piece. For a final finishing touch, I'll add some of the gold butterfly peel-offs. Put 3 on the right side by the sentiment and 2 above the sentiment on the left side. I really like the butterfly peel-offs, and they look so pretty in the gold color. So there is my finished card, and this is bonus card number 11. This was a fun card to make. I really like the floral stamps that are included in the kit. Now here's another look at the 11 cards I made using Love From Lizi's July 2023 card kit called Peach Blossom. This is a beautiful kit, and it is filled with so many lovely products. As I'm recording this voiceover, the kit and most of the add-ons are still available, and I do have links provided in the description box below. This is a monthly kit, so quantities are always limited. The only way to guarantee receiving a kit is to sign up and subscribe. And I have provided links for subscribing in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.